All right, so on INTP Central in 2013, like I said, I was trying to destroy religion and say that Christianity was just Darwinism and it was just a trick by the Jews to convert the white people to Christianity, which would save the Jews and like and I'll kind of like just describe how I try to see everything through the Darwinian lens. So like for instance, I studied George Washington, right? And it said that George Washington could have been a king. You know, the fact that he became a president, people think that he was just like some very virtuous, unassuming man who decided to just become president. But then the other theory is he couldn't have children. So there was no incentive for him to become a king because he couldn't give his power to his offspring. So in the Darwinian sense, he seems virtuous and everything, but really, if he had children, he might have become king, So, so I tried to look at everything through the Darwinian lens. So, like, other examples would be, like, I tried to explain, like, the bee hive where, even the worker bees who don't get sex, they will fight to protect the queen because they're genetically related to the queen. And I thought the same thing with, like, societies where people have an incentive, even if they're the interlopers, even if they're like the lower members of society, they have an incentive to maintain the status quo because always in tribes, everyone shared genes. So to maintain the conservative tribe, to conserve the tribe, to conserve the society, there's an incentive because everybody shares genes, So I want to see everything through this Darwinian lens. And I want to see everything, but really why? Because I wanted to destroy religion because I wanted to mix the white people, right? And I want to destroy spirituality. I always hated spirituality, and because I want to destroy the white race, because I thought that spirituality maintained the status quo, right? So, just like another example would be, like I argued, some people say that the Americans should have, that it's not a given that the Americans would have fought with Germany with Britain during World War II. Some people say, there's more Germans in America. It was very likely that the Americans could have fought with Germany during World War II. And one theory of why, so that doesn't make sense in a Darwinian perspective, right? But one theory of why it happened is because the British spoke English and the Americans speak English. And according to the Darwinian theorists, they say that people who speak the same language, that's a way to gauge genetic interrelatedness. So that's why, like, people who speak Ebonics, black people start speaking Ebonics because they're different genetic lineage, so they separate and they start speaking differently. But throughout history, it was always a good gauge to distinguish who's you're more genetically related to. You even see it in the Bible where, one of the tribes of Israel is speaking one way and another tribe is speaking another, and they would kill each other by asking, like, they would ask the person to say yes in their language, and if the person spoke with an accent, they would kill him. Because it's a way to, and I would say, yeah, it's just a way to gauge genetic relatedness. Now this was the problem. So I viewed things through this genetic perspective. So therefore, that's why I thought, when I tried to have a baby with my ex, one thing is I could have had babies with a lot of people, but I didn't want to have sex with girls. But was it because I had higher consciousness? A lot of it was because I just wanted to be a sperm donor, and I didn't want to have sex with women because I didn't want to get an STD because I always wanted to be a sperm donor. And in my mind, I'm like, that's the most genetic, that's the way to win the most. Become a sperm donor. So like, for instance, so I wouldn't have sex with women because I was too afraid to get an STD. So because I thought that would make me ineligible to become a sperm donor. But I'll get to that. But like with my ex, when I did try, I ended up, I asked her, did you get tests and everything? And she said, yes, she'd been tested and everything. And the good thing about her was, she didn't have a Facebook. So most of the girls would leave me because they would look at my Facebook and they wouldn't understand the quadrant model and they would just leave me. But my ex didn't have a Facebook. And that's one thing I liked about her. Because, Andrew Tate talks about that guys like girls who don't have Facebooks and stuff because girls with Facebooks and social media, it makes you think that they're talking to other guys. But so I like that about her. And she didn't have a Facebook, so she didn't see my quadrant model stuff. So we got along. So I was with her long enough to get her pregnant. Whereas with a lot of women, they would leave me because they wouldn't understand the quadrant model. They look at my Facebook and they would see all the drama that I had with my mom and all the quadrant stuff. So, but anyways, I wanted to get her pregnant because first she told me she didn't have any STDs. She'd been tested recently, and also because I was still thinking in Darwinian sense. And I'm thinking I want to be superior. I want to spread my genes. So again, I was selfish and I wasn't in the flow. And I was just thinking, okay, I'll have a baby with her. Because and to be honest, I didn't really think that I would marry her or anything, because she was a single mom. And she had a Salvadorian daughter. I just kind of, in a way, I just thought that I could have a baby with her. But the fact of the matter is, I did kind of fall in love with her, and I did kind of love her. And I think one of the reasons why I loved her was because, you know, when eventually she asked me, like, you know, she wanted to meet my parents, and I told her that my parents wouldn't talk to me, and she was like, Ryan, you know, I couldn't imagine if my parents didn't talk to me. Like, that would hurt me so much. And I was like, yeah, it does hurt me so much. And so she kind of was on my wavelength, and she kind of understood me, and she was like, you know, and she also had problems with her parents, but her parents at least didn't disown her. But, you know, she was like, you know, that's terrible that your parents have never asked you for Thanksgiving, and they never say happy birthday, and you've been alienated from them for so many years. But at the same time, that ended up hurting our relationship. So like I said, she ended up becoming pregnant. I'm not gonna get into all the details and stuff, but she already was not liking me, because because my swag flow was off. But like I said, if my parents would have helped me just get basketball videos, I wouldn't have lost the swag flow. But my parents had abandoned me, and I had a lot of videos, but a lot of them were lost because my parents abandoned me. So basically, my ex, you know, she wanted to, she got pregnant, but she wanted to meet my parents. But I told her, you know, my parents won't talk to me. And then she called my mom, and my mom said that she wouldn't meet her for Thanksgiving. And, you know, so then my ex is going to be asking questions. She's going to start thinking like, oh, this guy really must have serious problems. And, you know, and I told her that my mom thought I had schizophrenia. And so then my ex was scared. She was like, do you have schizophrenia? She's like, yeah, I think you do have schizophrenia. So then she started to treat me. I think, already she didn't like me that much. But, you know, then that just exacerbated stuff, because she's pregnant with my baby and she wants to have support, but my mom and dad won't even see me. So now she has no support, and she told me she had to get a cerclage and stuff because she had a short cervix, so she had 3 abortions before. So, you know, and so everything is just exacerbated. Everything is amplified, the negative aspects of this whole situation, because then she's thinking like, oh, this guy really must have serious mental issues if his own parents won't talk to him. And that's what people will assume. But they don't know. She doesn't know the story about the shoot away machine, how my dad screwed up my shot, and how it led to problems. And then my grandpa came in and he made things worse. And it's hard to explain all this stuff. My grandpa's like, you can't make things happen to my mom and dad. My mom and dad are just stupid to begin with. So I'm going to get to that. So then they're like, yeah, right, you can't make things happen. And if it wasn't for the shoot away machine, none of this stuff would have happened. But, you know, people are going to start asking questions. And she doesn't know that I actually discovered theory of everything. So I remember after that, you know, then she lied. She told me that she was going to go to a Halloween. She went to her friend Sylvie's party, and I was cool with that. She said, I'm going to go to my friend Sylvie's kickback. But then I later found out it was a party. But then the week after, she was like, hey, Ryan, I'm going to go to the movies. And she was lying to me. She was really going to go to a party. And I talked about that before. And I found out she was really going to go to a party. I asked her, like, can you take pictures of yourself while you're there? And she was like, okay, I'm going to go to a party. And I was just like, it's kind of messed up that you lied to me. But she's like, you're just jealous, Ryan. And then she ended up kicking me out of her place. And then she wouldn't respond to my texts. And like I said, when I would be with her, I remember before, when I was playing with her daughter, she would be cool with it. But I think it's because, you know, she probably started to think, she probably thought, he probably does have schizophrenia. He probably is mentally ill, when I'm not. And the thing is, I would never, ever do anything to a daughter or do anything to a child. I'm not like a fucking weirdo. But I remember, like, I was playing with her daughter, and then, like, my ex would be looking like, you know, playing with her in another room. Like, my ex would be looking, like, making sure that I'm not doing anything. Because my ex, you know, she probably was making assumptions. You know, he maybe is schizophrenic. He maybe is mentally ill. No, I wasn't mentally ill. I'm a very safe person. I discovered a theory of everything. It's just a tragedy that my parents are stupid, and they've done what they've done. Now I want to talk to my parents, but you know, and now people are gonna think, oh, well, no wonder your parents don't talk to you because you call them stupid. No, I call them stupid because they don't talk to me. Get the fucking difference, dude. So, yeah, if my parents would talk to me, if my parents would just treat me normal, if my parents weren't acting stupid, then everything would be good, you know. But my parents have decided to be callous, but again, my parents think we're doing what his grandpa said. We just want to be independent. And no, I'll get to what happened. If it wasn't for the shoot away machine, my parents would still love me. Everything would be great. I would have been a star basketball player. And the fact of the matter is, I could still do basketball and stuff, but I've been disowned. I've been abandoned and stuff. But it's just stupid what my parents have done. And I discovered the theory of everything. My parents could help me, but anyways, I'm disowned. So then my ex is not, my ex is not treating me good. she asked me, hey, Ryan, I go to her place before Thanksgiving. We're supposed to go to Thanksgiving to meet my parents, but my parents wouldn't meet her. So then she says, hey, Ryan, your friend Malik, he has a younger daughter, right? Do you think he can have she can have play dates with my daughter? And I'm like, dude, that's fucked up that you would. I said, well, do you want to have sex with Malik? Like, why would you ask that? But then she told me she didn't love me anymore. I asked her, do you love me still? And she said she didn't love me anymore. And, and she was just not treating me good. But then, she ended up having a threatened miscarriage where her vagina was bleeding. I took her to the hospital. I drove her back, and then I asked her, are we back together? She said, yeah, we're back together. But then that night, I'm sleeping with her, and then I see a bunch of Snapchats come up from this guy, Jared. I asked, who's Jared? She said, he's just a friend. She's like, he's just a friend. But then the next day, she's Snapchatting him, and she's smiling, like sexually smiling. So I could tell that she was, so again, she didn't have any respect for me, and I don't think that, now I'm not going to blame my parents. She already didn't have respect for me, but I do blame, if the fact of the matter is, if my parents would have helped me from the beginning, I wouldn't have been in this situation in the first place, probably. I would have been big with basketball. If I wanted my dad and mom, when I went to Kauai, I wanted them to help me get basketball videos when I was younger so I could study the swag flow, study my shot, get back into basketball, all that stuff. But they just disowned me. They threw me to the side. You're a schizophrenic loser. We're never going to talk to you. Your dad's never going to talk to you. You have to just accept that. You have to just accept it. You're a fucking loser. You need to take medicine. My mom and dad, it's fucked up what they did. And they've maintained that. Like I said, for years, I would call my mom. Like I said, barely, she would mostly have me blocked. If I call her, I'd be like, Mom, can I see you and Dad? Why don't you get a fucking life? Just get a fucking life. Why do you need your mommy and daddy? What are you 2 years old? You're 26 years old, you fucking loser. And like I said, this stemmed from when the shootaway happened. My mom, when my shot got messed up, my dad was the one who messed it up. I would have had no problems if it wasn't for the shootaway. My dad told me to do the wrong thing. But then I'm shooting wrong because of my dad. And then but I felt like I needed my dad because he helped me my whole life. I always shot sideways, but it's because my left foot was pointed out, my right foot to the rim. But then when I got the shooting machine, I couldn't shoot with my left foot pointed out. And really, shooting's all about how you have your feet. And there's more to it. And I can go into details about how with the shoot away picking up off the rack, you can't move into shots the way I did when I was the best. But regardless, it messed up my shot. So then my mom was like, then I'm like, Dad, I need your help. And my dad was always helping me. But then my dad was like, I give up. You fucking suck now. So I needed his help. So I'm like, Dad, I need your help. And then my grandpa comes in from Kauai. And then I'm like, my grandpa's like, Ryan, everything's fine. You can't make things happen. You just have to accept it. And then Mom was like, yeah, you just have to accept it. And then, like I said, then my mom was like, what do you need your dad for? You're fucking 16 years old, you fucking loser. You're fucking 16. What are you, 2? And I'm like, I'm living with my grandpa. I want to go back home, have my dad help me fix my shot, and help me. He's the one who messed up my shot to begin with. He's the one who did it, but I didn't know that. I didn't know because I didn't know how to fix it because I was always unconscious. That's why I was so good. So when the shootaway messed up my shot, I didn't know how to fix it. So my mom was like, "What are you fucking 17 years old? You're 17 years old. You fucking loser. You need your fucking dad. You're 17 years old." It continued to when I'm at that point 31. Mom, my ex is pregnant. Can you and Dad please see us? Can we just make up? Can we move on? No, why don't you get a fucking life? When are you gonna fucking accept? You have to accept it. You have to just accept that we're never gonna fucking see you. So, but like I said, now, am I an innocent victim? My grandpa would say, take responsibility. All that matters is you take responsibility. So the fact of the matter was, yeah, I wasn't an innocent victim. My whole life I saw myself as Jewish, and I saw things in a Darwinian lens, and I was anti-religious. So, and that Darwinian lens where I saw myself as a separate individual, and I didn't see things, as my grandpa says, as energy, everything is one, there is no thing. So I saw things in a Darwinian lens, and I wanted to have a baby. So I had a baby out of wedlock. And it was selfish, and I wasn't in the flow, and I didn't have good discernment. And I had a baby with a girl who was a drug addict, So, and again, now I'm not completely blaming, if it wasn't, but the other thing is, yeah, if my parents weren't such bad parents, and my grandpa would say, yeah, bad parents they do produce bad children because the environment you are in, the exposure will affect your consciousness. And my parents never taught me any transpersonal stuff. My parents were bad parents. They were, my grandpa even admits it. He says that my dad's very stubborn. My parents are both stuck in very primitive, dualistic predator-prey software. My grandpa said that, and I'll get to that. But So I don't want people to think like, oh, my parents weren't talking to me because they were some like saints and you had problems. No, my parents were way worse than me. But and I'll get to that. But so I wanted to, see my parents, but they wouldn't talk to me. And then as I said, my ex ended up getting the cerclage, and I was already in, and she'd already told me. She said, because I got upset with her because she was texting that other guy, and I stayed in her apartment. I was like, I want to know who you're texting. I want to talk to this guy. So then she called my mom, and then she's like, Marla, can you get him out of my apartment? And then my mom told me that I had to leave. So then when she ended up, again, like I would try to text her, but she would ghost me for a long time. So then I tried to call, but then my ex texted me and she said, "You're never gonna see your baby unless you start taking medicine, Ryan. We want our good Ryan back, from mental illness." She was like, "You're mentally ill. You need to." So she was gaslighting me because she's the one who was cheating on me, and she's telling me I'm mentally ill. But no, I wasn't mentally ill, but she was gaslighting me, and again, my mom was the one who poisoned the well. The fact of the matter is my mom should have been talking to me. What was done to me is not cool. So, my ex didn't want to, she told me that I needed to take medicine in order to see the baby, but then she got the cerclage and she needed to be on bed rest. So she had me come over to her place to take care of her. But she said in order for a baby to survive, she needed to be on bed rest. So then I was taking care of her, but then I got upset because she went to Kids Empire and she was supposed to be on bed rest. But, her daughter wanted to go to Kids Empire because it was raining. And then at Kids Empire, the daughter was moving around all the time, and she's moving around, and I got upset because we went back, and I'm like, you need to tell your baby dad that you're pregnant and tell your family so they can help take care of your daughter so you can be on bed rest like the doctor said. But then I got upset at the daughter because the daughter kicked her in the stomach, and the daughter was acting too crazy. So I took the daughter also told me to leave because I made food for her, and then the daughter told me to leave. So I said, okay, I'm going to leave. Okay, no, you're going to leave. So I put the daughter outside because I got angry. Now, again, my grandpa would say, am I an innocent victim? No, I wasn't an innocent victim. I saw things through a Darwinian lens. I didn't have discernment. I got her pregnant. I should have had discernment and not done that in the first place. If I was in the flow, I wouldn't have, but I wasn't in the flow. I saw things through Darwinism, and I wasn't seeing things in oneness consciousness and pure awareness, as my grandpa would say, but I didn't understand that back then. So then I put the daughter outside. I got angry. And again, I did try to make things happen. The reason why I put the daughter outside and I got angry was because I was trying to show my ex, like, hey, I'm upset at your daughter and I want you to, find someone to take care of the daughter, because instead of just staying calm and just telling my ex, hey, can you please find someone to take care of the daughter and just staying calm, I did something dramatic. I tried to make things happen, right? And then I was afraid that my ex would not let me take care of her anymore during the pregnancy. And I was afraid because she said that I needed to take care of her in order for the baby to survive. So I start, I'm texting my ex the next day and she's not responding to me. So I'm thinking, she's probably moving around a lot. She's not on bed rest. And I was afraid that she was going to try to get me in trouble for her daughter, for putting her daughter outside. So then I go online and I tell everybody what's going on about my situation. Cause I'm like, I need someone to help take care of my ex. My ex is not going to let me do it because I got upset with her daughter, but I would try to tell everybody it wasn't my fault because my ex had pushed me through the edge by all the disrespect she put me through. So I'm trying to tell people, like, I need some help in this situation. And my mom wouldn't help me. Nobody would help me. So, my ex wanted my mom to help take care of her during the pregnancy because she needed to be on bed rest because of her cerclage. So I'm freaking out. But then my ex messages my mom. She says, Marla, Ryan's writing about me on Facebook. Can you please get him? She wanted my mom to get me admitted into a psych ward. And I was like, and that's why I texted my ex. I'm like, I'm not fucking schizophrenic. But again, she didn't respect me. And a part of it's because she thought I was schizophrenic, but I'm not. So I'm like, I'm not schizophrenic. Stop trying to fucking say that I need to take medicine or I need to go to psych ward. I'm not. Just fucking respond to my messages. That's disrespectful. You're pregnant with my baby. But again, she didn't respect me. And, and people say that's a bad sign. If your woman's pregnant with your baby and she's not responding to your text messages, that's a really bad sign. So, but then she ended up, I went to her daughter's school to tell the principal about how she needed to be on bed rest, but she's not getting back to me. So I don't know if she's on bed rest and I don't know what's going on. And someone needs to help take care of her daughter so she could be on bed rest. So I wanted to get in a hold of her baby dad, but the principal wouldn't let me. So then that's when my ex got a restraining order against me. So I'll get to that.